Good day, I am William Theo, and this is PTV News Now. The Department of Foreign Affairs said no one but the President can authorize or approve any agreements on matters concerning the West Philippine Sea. The DFA debunked claims of China that a cabinet-level official of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has agreed to a new model or framework of protocols and procedures in handling Ayungin Shoal. Such new model for Ayungin Shoal was allegedly approved by the officials of the Department of National Defense and National Security Advisory. The agency also urged China to desist from disseminating such information or insinuations against the officials of the Philippines. They added that the DFA is not aware of any new model arrangement being referred to by the Chinese embassy. Meanwhile, reports of possible progress on a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas are happening against the backdrop of Israel's plan for a military incursion into the southern Gaza city of Rafah. VOA's Anita Powell reports.
Tension in Rafah after Israel signaled its intention, over Washington's objections, to launch a ground assault on the packed town at Gaza's southern point. And tension in Washington amid reports that Israel and Hamas were close to a ceasefire deal Monday. Jordan's king lunched privately Monday with U.S. President Joe Biden, and the administration said Gaza was discussed. Biden also called Israel's leader by phone Monday morning. The White House said its wishes are clear.
We want to get these hostages out. We want to get a ceasefire in place for 6 weeks. We want to increase humanitarian assistance. And the last thing that I want to do is say anything at this podium that's going to put that process at risk.
In Gaza, residents celebrated at Monday's news that Hamas had accepted an Egyptian-Qatari ceasefire proposal. The State Department was more skeptical about whether a deal had, in fact, been reached.
A ceasefire is absolutely achievable. There has been a deal on the table, a proposal on the table that would achieve an immediate ceasefire and the release of hostages. Now, as for Hamas's response, which I think gets to your question, again, I don't want to characterize it in any sort of detail until we've had a chance to review it in depth and talk with our partners in the region about it.
Meanwhile, Israel's military has told Rafah residents to evacuate ahead of a ground operation.
We examine every answer and reply very seriously and find every possibility regarding the negotiations for the return of the hostages to their homes as a central task as quickly as possible. And at the same time, we continue our operations in the Gaza Strip and will continue to do so.
The United Nations expressed concerns over an incursion into Rafah.
Any escalation of hostilities resulting from a full-scale incursion into Rafah will push residents and displace people currently living there past their breaking point.
And the White House expressed concerns about civilians after what appeared to be aerial strikes there on Monday.
It doesn't matter whether it's missiles or rockets, things that kill innocent people, that's not okay. And again, the president made it clear that we don't want to see operations in Rafah that put at risk those 1.5 million people that are there.
It's those people who today are caught in the middle of all this. Anita Powell, VOA News, the White House.
There are 6 months left in the U.S. presidential race between Democratic President Joe Biden and Republican candidate Donald Trump. VOA correspondent Scott Stearns looks at what's ahead for the campaigns in the run-up to Election Day.
President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump have 6 months left to persuade American voters to give them a second term. Trump will spend some of that time in state or federal court answering 4 separate indictments on charges that include unlawful retention of national defense information and falsifying business records. He says prosecutors are interfering in the election.
Everything was legal, and they're doing this because it's for politics. They want to get Biden elected. That's the only reason.
The court appearances are reducing Trump's time campaigning, but he says what he calls a political hoax is only making him more popular with voters.
It's a terrible, terrible thing happening in our country, and hopefully November 5th, the most important day in the history of our country, in my opinion, that's called Election Day. Hopefully it's going to change because these people are destroying our country.
The Republican Party last nominated Trump for president at its semi-virtual 2020 convention in North Carolina. This year's Republican convention is in July in the state of Wisconsin. Before then, Trump will need to choose a new running mate, Among those he's believed to be considering for vice president are Florida Senator Marco Rubio, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, and New York Representative Elise Stefanik. As the incumbent president, Biden has the advantage of White House events to keep voters' attention. On the campaign trail, Biden is becoming more pointed in his attacks on Trump, while claiming credit for a stronger economy.
Construction of new factories has more than doubled in our administration. Meanwhile, Donald Trump still thinks windmills cause cancer. That's what he said. By the way, remember when he was trying to deal with COVID, he said, just inject a little bleach in your veins. He missed it, all went to his hair.
The Democratic Party last nominated Biden for president at its semi-virtual 2020 convention in Wisconsin. This year's Democratic convention is in August in the state of Illinois. Biden is running again with Vice President Kamala Harris, who's been campaigning for restoring federal abortion protections that were ended when the U.S. Supreme Court overturned the case Roe v. Wade in 2022.
Donald Trump was the president who took away the protections of Roe. Joe Biden will be the president who puts the protections of Roe back in place.
Before November's election day, Biden and Trump are expected to debate. Both men say they're ready. No date's been set. Scott Stearns, VOA News.
This is William Theo. Stay informed, get ahead, get the news right here.